Hello, welcome to today's class. I'm looking forward to getting through all of the brain exercises we have today, helping you exercise your brain and enjoying the process. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to just jump right in with our first brain exercise for today, and it's going to be some optical illusions. I'll also explain a little bit about the mechanism behind it and what's going on with our perception and why it looks so different, or what's happening with our vision and what's happening with our brain. To give you a little bit of context about how we're exercising our brain and what level we're exercising it at, we're going to look at where we fall in the exercise level pyramid here. So we've got levels 1 through 7. And our optical illusions are going to be falling in level 2, sharpening our senses, because we are using our vision in this case, and we're processing that input. The area of the brain that we're exercising is the occipital lobe in the back. And you can remember that the back part of the brain, which as you can see on here, this is the front part, and this is where the eyes would be. And this is looking from the left of the brain, and then this is the back. You can remember that this back part of the brain, the cerebrum, pink maze part that's on the outside of the brain, the outside of the inner parts, the back part is the occipital lobe. And you can remember that this is for your vision, because mothers always know what's going on with their kids. And mothers have eyes in the back of their heads because they always can see what's going on. They know what trouble the kids are getting up to. So your occipital lobe is in the back. And in case you wanted to look up more info, this is at the mayoclinic.org. And the Mayo Clinic just has a little bit of information about what parts of the brain they do. And basically, this little excerpt here just goes to show that the occipital lobes are verified as processing images from your eyes and link that information with images stored in memory. All right, so here's our first optical illusion. What do you see here? I'll let you think about it for about 10 seconds and just analyze the image and see what your brain is telling you. Okay, so how about we break this down a little bit? I want you to imagine in your mind, if you were to touch this image with your hands, how would it feel? I'm guessing you probably would respond as the two outer columns, or the outer columns on the left and the right side, they would be bumpy. And the one in the middle, there would be a dip. So the ones on the outsides are convex, and the one in the inside is concave. Now, why is that? Why do we perceive that? Well, let's flip it around and see what we see in the image. Nothing is going to change except for the orientation of it. If you want to follow this black X in the top right-hand corner, it's going to come down here. So this corner, we're going to rotate it about 180 degrees. Now, if you were to rub your hand across this image, if it were a three-dimensional image, how would it feel? You would probably think that we didn't flip it 180 degrees, we flipped it this way. We flipped it from front to back. And now the convex is concave and the concave is convex. However, we didn't do anything except for rotate it 180 degrees. Now, the reason why we are perceiving these three dimensions is because it's the suggestion of light, the white and the black parts. So we're perceiving in this image the light coming from the top, that's what we're assuming, and it's dark underneath because of what we perceive as the convex nature of it. It's coming out and the darker part is on bottom. And in the middle, the upper part is being shadowed because the light can't quite reach it, and it's hitting the bottom part of the convex shape, the concave shape. So it's about the play of light and dark, or contrast, and a little bit of context in this case, mainly contrast. And this contrast and convex in a situation with optical illusions is going to be the key to understanding what's happening. So let's keep going and see if we can help play around with our brain and strengthen our brain with the next optical illusions. All right, so take a look at this one for a moment. You'll see a few things here. You're going to see a green shape. You're going to see a point A and point B. Don't worry so much about the hands, but just you want to focus on those red dots. So there's going to be red dot A and red dot B. Now the question for you here is which of these dots is in the middle of the lines that they're on? I'll give you about 10 seconds to take a look at it. Okay, now let's show the answer and see if you can determine just with your eyes alone and nothing measuring it, which one is in the middle of that line. So here we have the red line dividing it, and we have the blue lines showing you that that is indeed the center. What we saw in this image was a green parallelogram. What your brain might have thought it was seeing was a green rectangle with 90-degree angles, but it was just tilted and it was leaning back. The dot A is slightly higher. So your brain might be telling you that this is in the middle because it's the perspective, the depth that is making it look a little bit higher. So it's in fact A that looks correct. But because it's just a two-dimensional image, and we're really just looking at the middle between the length of the lines on a two-dimensional plane, it's really B. So again, it's the context in this case. The context, which the rectangle looks like it is leaning back because it's in a two-dimensional space, but it's really a parallelogram. Let's get a little more artistic with this one and look at this picture. He has 3 daughters hidden in there somewhere, and see if you can find this man's 3 daughters. I'll give you about 10 seconds. Okay, did you find them? There they are. So they were, one was behind the neck, one was in front of the lips, and one was underneath the chin. So it was negative space. So not too much of a trick here, just you got to look a little bit into the image. You might have looked in the hair, you might have looked in the bones, the nose, the eyes, the coat, and eventually you would have found that they were in the negative space. So we aren't always looking within an image, we might be looking what are the outlines of the image creating, and can you find the hidden images. Okay, next one. Are these mid-sized SUVs, or maybe they're full-size SUVs, but they look like mid-sized to me. Are they all the same size? Now, you know by now that these are optical illusions. So you might be saying, well, of course, I know, they're all the same size. And as you can see here, yes, they are all the same size. But again, I question you, why do they look like they are not the same size? The one on the right looks smaller and the one on the left looks bigger. And maybe you determined that it's the context in this case, not so much the contrast, but the context. We're looking at an image of some neighborhood. You're seeing a street, and we see the 3 cars parked up and then down the street. Now, this is the key. It is a two-dimensional image, two-dimensional set of images on what is suggested as a 3-dimensional space. And the cars are also overlapping each other. So our brain, the memory we have inside our brain, which has seen many streets with cars parked up and down them, is thinking that these cars are in a three-dimensional space and they're parked 1, 2, 3, and one behind the other. And we think that the one in the back is the biggest because we were thinking if it's further back, but it's still two-dimensionally the same size as the one that's closest to us or the one on the right, that means that it's bigger. But it's really a two-dimensional image because the cars are on a two-dimensional plane. They're not in three dimensions. So that's the trick being played there, is trick with depth. All right, let's look at a little bit of contrast in this case. So we see two dog images, and are they the same color? Now, they don't look like they're the same color. Maybe if you feel like it, you can put your hands up to the screen and block out some of the contrast. If you block the tops of the dog out, you can try and play around with that to isolate the dogs to see if you can cover the background color or what's being suggested as the background color. And you can see if you can see maybe the tails are the same color. You can maybe squint your eyes, or maybe you can just really focus on one part of the dog and then focus on the other dog. And it might become apparent to you that they're actually more similar than not. Or they're actually exactly the same sets of colors, arrangements of colors within the dog image. And they're the same dog image too. And again, why is our brain perceiving them as different? It's because it's the context and the contrast. But contrast is the more specific term in this case, since we are seeing yellow on top of blue or bluish gray, and then blue on top of a lighter blue. So this is a way our brain is trying to organize the information in a way that we remember from what we've seen in our real world. Here is our next one. Very straightforward, seeing if you can just understand the space. So this is more of a spatial problem, spatial brain teaser. If this were a normal three-dimensional glass, when would it be half full? So we're taking this blue triangle and we're interpreting it as a representation of something three-dimensional. And then which of these lines, A, B, C, D, E, or F, is dividing the volume in half? I'll give you maybe 10 or 15 seconds to analyze this and determine which is the correct answer, starting now. Okay, did you figure it out? Here's the answer. It's B. It's B. If this were a two-dimensional object, it might be one of the other answers, but in this case, it is B. All right, here's the next one. Go ahead and take about 10 seconds. Just look at this and see what you see, and try and interpret what your brain is seeing and also what is actually on the screen. Okay, hopefully you've had long enough to look at it. What do you think you see? Do you see a spiral? Do you see interlocking circles? Do you see concentric circles? Do you see the squares? Are the squares all tilted in the same direction? Maybe, maybe not. So our brain probably doesn't quite see this. Well, of course it doesn't see the red lines, but I'm talking about the circles, the ones made up of the little squares. We don't quite see it that straightforward. We're seeing something else when we just see this without the red circles dividing the concentric circles. And maybe if you lean backwards and forwards, you might see the circles moving a little bit. Now, why is that? Well, if you look at all the individual squares, they're not all pointing the same direction. And of course, you can see that they're white and black. So in this case, it's about the context. The squares tilting in different directions next to the squares tilting in different directions. And the black and white. Okay, so that's the end of our optical illusions. And we're going to go on to some brain teasers to see if you can exercise more of your executive function. And here's our exercise pyramid, exercise level pyramid. And which level does brain teasers fall on? It's going to be level 6. So we're going to be working the front part of our brain, the frontal lobe, which is in charge of a lot of different functions. But in this case, it's going to be about deciding which answer is correct. And also maybe thinking a little bit outside the box, so our abstract conceptual thinking. And this is what the Mayo Clinic categorizes the functions of the frontal lobe as: controlling thinking, planning, organizing, problem solving, memory, and movement. So here's our first brain teaser. Which 3 US states have been merged together in this giant word? All of the states are spelled in the right order. It's just they've been put all together. So if we have these are the letters of one state and these are the letters of another state, they have not been reorganized. They have just been put together. So you just have to determine which of those states are. I'll give you about 15 to 20 seconds to take a look at this, and I'll help you out with some clues. If you want to pause this video at any time to guess or to have more time to guess or analyze it, that's totally fine. Okay, so we're talking about 3 states here. One of them is a 4-letter state, starts with O. Hopefully that gives you a clue. And remember, it's spelled in the right order. So maybe you thought that was Ohio, O-H-I-O. And maybe you determined that the other one was California. And then you found out the other one was New Jersey. So C-A-L-I-F-O-R-N-I-A, Ohio, O-H-I-O, New Jersey, N-E-W-J-E-R-S-E-Y. In this next one, our next brain teaser, we have 10 words here, and the vowels have been removed. Can you determine what animals these are? See, all these words are names of animals. And can you determine what the animals are? All that's been taken out is just the vowels. I'll give you about 10 to 15 seconds to determine which ones these animals are. Okay, did you figure it out? Here is the answer. We have aardvark, reindeer, porcupine, rhinoceros, squirrel, ocelot, ferret, skunk, donkey, and antelope. So there's the words with the vowels removed again, and here are the vowels added. And if you're curious as to what an ocelot is, that's an ocelot. Not everyone knows what an ocelot is. Also, another acceptable answer for ocelot or CLT is colt. Here's our next brain teaser. And the question is, can you circle exactly 3 numbers to make a total of 19? I'll give you about 20 seconds, 20 to 25 seconds, starting now. Okay, did you figure it out? I'll give you a clue and then I'll give you a little more time. You can circle 3 numbers. There's a difference between numbers and digits. You can circle exactly 3 numbers. There's a difference between numbers and digits. I'll give you another 20 seconds, see if that helps. Okay, did you figure it out yet? Here's the answer. So the puzzle didn't ask for 3 digits to be circled. It asked for 3 numbers. 12, 6, and 1, 3 numbers add up to 19. All right, here's our next brain teaser. If even numbers are green and odd numbers are yellow, what color is yellow plus yellow? I'll give you about 15 seconds. Okay, here's our answer. The answer is green. Example is 5 plus 7 equals 12, 9 plus 13 equals 22, odd plus odd equals even, and even equals green. Here's our next brain teaser. What comes next in this sequence? Did you figure it out? So let's see the answer. It's Neves. Maybe you said 7, but that's not correct. It is 7 backwards because ino, ut, ehret, ruf, if, x, x's are all numbers 1 through 6 spelled out backwards. So you need to do the last one spelled out backwards as well, which is 7 spelled backwards, Neves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the first and last letters switched. Yeah, so they're actually not backwards. I got that backwards. I mixed it up. So it is actually the numbers spelled out with the first and last letters switched, which in this case is 3, 4, and 5 are the only ones that you would have to look at closely in order to notice that it is the first letter switched. It's not just backwards. Okay, so that's it for our brain teasers. Let's go into our third one, which is our third and last brain exercise for this class, which is going to be Wuzzles. This is going to be our brain exercise levels 3 and 5. Level 3 is remembering and learning. It's categorization of the things, the information, the input that we're receiving from our world that we see, we hear, we smell, we taste. And then level 5 is thinking, communicating. We are trying to understand what the organization of this puzzle is. So you're going to have to use your thinking capacity, comparing with information that you have from before and determining the answer. And the area of the brain is going to be the front here. The executive function, level 6, is also in the front as well. But level 5 is also exercising your thinking and communicating capacity. So just to give you a little bit of background on Wuzzles, in case you've never heard of them before, you might see them in the certain game sections of newspapers. You might have just played them because you encountered them, in your day-to-day search for new brain exercises, or maybe you heard about them from a friend. But just a little background, Wuzzles are also called rebus problems. They have a long history of use and entertainment for people all the way back to the Persian Empire. And they demonstrate the phenomena of insight. So just getting a sudden solution, an aha moment, if you will. It doesn't seem like you logically and sequentially came up to the solution of a situation or problem. It's all of a sudden, you know the answer. And that's what Wuzzles have been shown to demonstrate. All right, so this is how they work. You're going to be given a box and then a word or arrangement of numbers inside the box, maybe even outside the box in some occasions. And you're going to use your brain to determine what is the common phrase or saying. And here's some examples. We have all these minutes with back, kind of the word back, slicing these minutes in half, but it really is telling us back in 5 minutes, because the word back is inside 5 minutes. And then in this other box to the right, it says good afternoon, because we have the word good afternoon. So it's good afternoon. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, here's our first Wuzzle. Maybe about 5 or 10 seconds, see if you can figure this one out. This one is backing up, because the word backing is pointing up. Okay, inside job, an inside job, because the word in is inside job. All right, here's the next one. All right, so this one is skating on thin ice. Skating on thin ice. So these are thin ice. So it sounds like skating on thin ice, and that's the phrase. And at any point, if you want to guess more, if at any point you want more time to guess, you can always pause the video. No fun without you. The word no fun without the letter U. All right, answer is order on the side. All right, this one is head in the sand. And maybe you notice that you're looking at these and it's not like you're logically adding up the little pieces all together. It's sort of like you know the answer right away, but you just have to sift through a lot of information. Like what is the phrase, what is the orientation, and maybe if this is too foreign to you, the answer might not come as clearly or quickly. But this is helping to demonstrate the phenomena of sudden insight. And it's not like you're coming to it, you're almost like you're searching for the answer because you can kind of already see it. And if you're interested in learning more, you can always go online and Google rebus problems or insight problems, or just Wuzzles and the history of Wuzzles and what do rebus problems, insight problems, or Wuzzles demonstrate as far as brain function. All right, here's the next one. All right, this one is looking out for number one. Looking is out of the box, and for number one. Looking out for number ones. All right, here's the next one. Okay, the solution, play on words. Maybe the circles around each of the letters of play distracted you a little bit, but it's just helping you challenge you a little bit. And it's really just the word play on words. All right, how about this one? Okay, this one, Dr. Doolittle. Big doctor, the do is little. Dr. Doolittle. All right, how about this one? Quarterback. All right, this one. No one to blame. There is no one and two blame. There's a 3-4 blame, but there's no one to blame. And this one, down payment. The word payment is down at the bottom, so down payment. All right, leftovers. There are 2 overs and they're on the left, leftovers. bedspread. And this one, maybe you got this, for crying out loud. Four cryings, and then loud is out. For crying out loud. And this one, shadow of a doubt. You see the shadow of the word doubt. High chair. And this one, rough is where? Where are the roughs? The roughs are around the edges, rough around the edges. Okay, so that's it for the Wuzzles. And here's our review. What were the 3 types of brain exercises we did today? What areas of the brain did we exercise? And what do these areas of the brain do? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. See if you can use your short-term memory and your long-term memory to determine what we did for today. We just finished Wuzzles. You might have got that one. What did we do before Wuzzles, and what did we do before the one before Wuzzles? And what areas of the brain did we highlight today? Mothers have eyes in the back of their head. Remember that phrase? That helped us distinguish what area of the brain. And then what do these areas of the brain do? What are they responsible for? All right, so our 3 exercises we did today were optical illusions, brain teasers, and Wuzzles. Now, what areas of the brain did we exercise for the first, second, and third exercise? In the first one, we exercised the occipital lobe. Mothers have eyes in the back of their head. That's where the occipital lobe is located, in the back. It governs vision. That's the function. And for the exercise number 2, which was brain teasers, we exercised the front part of our brain, the frontal lobe, and we understood how to come up with an answer or make a decision with an answer. And that was our frontal lobe executive function. And then also thinking abstractly, thinking outside of the box. That is what the frontal lobe governs. And for exercise number 3 with Wuzzles, we also exercised our frontal lobe in a little bit of abstract thinking within that box in the Wuzzles, and also a little bit outside the box, like literally speaking, but metaphorically speaking, or as a figure of speech, we did have to think more abstractly, or quote unquote outside of the box for our 3rd exercise using the front part of our brain. Okay, so that concludes our class today. And if you want more brain info, you can always visit wholebrainhealth.org. It's spelled just like that. Whole as in whole thing, brain as in what we're exercising today or what's inside your skull. Health as in healthy salad, wholebrainhealth.org. You can find more information to review and learn about the brain on there. And having said all that, it's been a joy to facilitate this class for you, and I will see you next time. Bye.